Again, welcome. My name is Kent Park. I am the chair of the awards committee for the last time. Let's see, Joanne.
No, that's not.
I've handed it off. So
this is like when Sean was treasurer.
Ryan and Joanne going to take over. No, it's not like treasurer. So, anyways, welcome to the David Ford Awards. For those of you who don't know David, he was a senator from Hartford City, District 19. He was what we call a friend of IGIC. Years ago, there was a group who reached out to him. He understood the importance of technology, and David was instrumental in helping us do a lot of things across the state, getting money, getting funds, helping create the GIO office. Unfortunately, in 2008, David passed away from cancer. So the following year, we decided as a committee that we needed to honor David, and more than anything, we also needed to honor some of our fellow GIS people. So we've created this award, and for those of you not familiar with it, presented by the council to an individual for exemplary service, dedication above and beyond duties for accomplishments in coordinating Indiana GIS through dissemination of data, data products, education, outreach, adoption of standards, building partnerships, and advancing the Indiana map. So this year we received 3 nominations, all excellent qualifications for this. And we've got a couple of presenters who are going to come up and present these awards. And with that, Kathy, if you'd like to come up.
Hi, thank you. Hope you guys are having a good couple of days so far. Hi. Thank you, and hope you guys are having a couple of good days so far. Jim Sparks and I had talked about nominating this individual for many years, and this year seemed like a good time. And for some of you who don't know who I am, I'm Kathy Lamp-Kaczynski with the Geography Educators Network of Indiana, or GIE. Obviously, I do geography education, and I want to thank all of you, and so does the GIE Board of Directors, for welcoming GIE at all of the events, the conferences, the webinars, the forums, and everything that's been going on in IGIC's history with education. So I've been involved with that for a long time. And so Jim Sparks is on vacation, so I'm speaking on behalf of he and I. Our recipient is also, I'll get more into that later. The Indiana geospatial community has been built on a legacy of volunteerism. It started that way, grew that way, and the organization continues to thrive as a result of everyone doing their part. No one person or group could ensure success that collectively we continue to make great progress. Helen Keller once wrote that alone we could do so little, and together we can do so much. While Margaret Mead observed that we should never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed individuals can change the world. In fact, it's the only thing that ever has. They are both absolutely correct, and either could have been talking about Indiana GIS. This is kind of a theme we've been seeing throughout the day, right? This nomination is for Mr. Mike Davis. See his picture. Many of you know him. For almost 2 decades, most of us have benefited from Mike's volunteerism, dedication, diverse geoskills, and professionalism. Mike has contributed to the success of countless GIS community events, such as the IGIC conferences, forums, for geography education purposes, the Indiana International Festival, and other workshops, webinars, and many unusual events. He has worked the registration tables, setting up and tearing down tables and chairs, serving hospitality, making coffee, walking a trail and identifying flora and fauna, editing maps and lesson plans, counting participants, running errands for Phil, and myself whatever needed to be done, attending to the Genie exhibit, presenting, facilitating, scribing, hands-on geo training, cartography, publisher, editor, giant maps maker, interactive educator, and anything and everything else that has needed to be done, always with a smile and a nod. Those many, many, many grand and small tasks, which we all do. All important, they've enabled IGIC and Genie to support various GIS, geography, and geospatial education outreach endeavors in a variety of capacities. His time, energy, and stewardship exemplify how we all work together, how we all accomplish so much together, and how we change the world a little bit at a time together. You're all part of this. Without Mike, IGIC and Genie would be a little less capable, less engaged, less visible, and less of an organization. Mike is one of those people that will accomplish tasks that he commits to. Whenever Mike agrees to engage in a geo endeavor, others breathe a sigh of relief, as he is reliable, trustworthy, well-spoken, thought-filled, knowledgeable, patient, kind, organized, and on time. Mike's undergraduate journalism degree from Indiana University. He received his undergraduate journalism degree from Indiana University. Most of us didn't know that. In his past life, Mike has been a surveyor. He has been a journalist, historian, and archivist for the military. But for the majority of his career, he's been a journalist and an editor for many newspapers. Beginning his journalism career while in middle school, he worked for the Kokomo Tribune, reporting on the American Legion baseball games. Some of you may remember those. He ended his employed journalism and editorial career with the Indianapolis Star and News. And in his past life, Mike also studied land surveying, and since 2012, he managed to combine those two loves, journalism and surveying and editing, as the editor for the Indiana Society of Professional Land Surveyors newsletter. So some of you may have been receiving those newsletters for a long time. And he's been ensuring quality content, connecting history to today and then into tomorrow, and connecting GIS as a collective history of data with modern geosurveying tools. So just think, I'm not going to tell you how old Mike is, but he's almost in his 8th decade. For 70 years as a professional writer and editor, much revolving around that GIS and geospatial latitude, longitude, and that whole world there. He's been really spending a lot of time thinking ahead of the rest of us. Like Mike, I wish that for all of us, we find and love and use our talents and our energy and our positivity for as long as we are able and capable in a career or a profession or a volunteer area of something we love and something we want to do to contribute to make our state and our GIS and Genie or IGIC or just our community a much better place. In fact, Mike is so dedicated, and this is where he is, to lifelong learning. He's been quietly pursuing a master's degree in GIS at IGIC. Believe that? In his non-professional life, he's focused on family, rescuing many cats, coordinating and working jingle rails. If you all have heard of jingle rails at the Indiana State Museum, the train display for Christmas. Well, guess who's been in charge of that? You would never know that, right? So you talk about hundreds of hours every year that he has devoted to this effort. And as a result of all of that, he is receiving an award tonight from the city of Indianapolis. And it's called the Rose Award, and I want to get recognition of service excellence. So Rose Award for all of his work. And I will quote to you what the Rose Award says, and that's on behalf of the City of Indianapolis, Visit Indy, and the Idle Tour Museum. And it's an award for those frontline hospitality service workers and volunteers who interact with the public in Indianapolis, leaving lasting impressions that bring true meaning to the phrase Hoosier hospitality. So he was scheduled to be there first before this. Secretly, he would rather be here. But you can see, if you Google, you can see he's got a little a blog on there from the Idle Tour folks, if you want to see him on there. So the Senator David C. Ford Award is for exemplary service and dedication above and beyond duties for accomplishments in coordinating Indiana GIS through dissemination of data and data products, education and outreach, adoption of standards, building partnerships, and advancing the Indiana map. That statement right there is a great description of Mr. Mike Davis and his contributions to our community through the many IGIC and Genie and other endeavors mentioned above. And let's acknowledge his ever-helpful presence in our geospatial community. Thank you so much. Jim Sparks and I are taking him out for lunch when they get back from vacation and when we do this. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Kathy. Appreciate that. Next up, our nominator is Megan Compton.
Hit the box for that, but very brave.
All right. Good evening, and thank you everybody who's taking the time, I can't see you with my glasses on, to recognize the wonderful service and the things that come along with our embodying and people who really do embody the David C. Ford Award. And when the awards came out this year, the email for the awards came out this year, I was like so excited thinking about Steve Leatherman and how he was suited and absolutely perfectly suited for this award. And I procrastinate everything, and I didn't procrastinate this. And I was, I called somebody because I had to make sure that Steve hadn't won the award before. And with that, we submitted the award for a nomination for Steve Leatherman for the David C. Ford Award. A little bit about Steve. Steve is a GIS consultant and in-house counsel for WTH Technology, which is a software and services company. He's served in that capacity since 1999. I'm going to lead with the bio and then with the soft stuff. With his leadership, WTH does work in 11 different states, and they have clients in 75 of the 92 counties, which then they focus in those counties on public safety, land information, and infrastructure. Because of that large footprint, Steve's been able to have a huge impact. He's been a quiet and focused innovator in the GIS industry for decades. His contributions and support for local and county government have helped advance the usability and application of location information and smart tools. Location information and smart tools for the masses, folks who didn't know how to use GIS in some cases. Steve has been participating and a collaborator in several IGIC committees
and work groups whose work has had great impact on the state's spatial data infrastructure. He further serves the GIS community through his advocacy and by identifying and optimizing opportunities to improve critical county data sets for public safety and response. Steve excels at leading from behind. And if you know anybody who has that skill, it's a really amazing one. He provides accurate, unbiased guidance really when it matters most. His mentorship and advice on major state projects for lots of people have helped Indiana's GIS community and its leadership gain support in the executive and legislative branches of government. For us in the last few years, this has not been a small thing. It's been a very big thing. Steve has gone above and beyond and to ensure the success of state and local efforts and is so deserving of this acknowledgement. Steve's support for local government is what helps us understand how to approach large-scale projects that we wouldn't otherwise know how to approach. He sees opportunities. For example, how do we take opportunities in Next Gen 911 and then, oh wait, there's another opportunity over here that's related to broadband. And how do we bring those together? That takes vision, that takes like ideas to see what the connections might be. It takes forethought and understanding. He takes the time to go through details so that he can very clearly explain to people what the opportunity is, so that those people who can do something about it can take action right away. It's a skill set. He takes a very complicated piece of information and explains it very clearly. His service to IGIC has, for more than 2 decades, is across a wide variety of committees, from data sharing to Next Gen 911 and several more. Ad hoc ones, formal and informal. So in my experience in government, the vendor and contractor relationships can be kind of tenuous sometimes, right? It's like you stay over here, and you stay over here. And what happens if you break down those barriers, amazing things can happen. And Steve does that. He steps over the line, not that there should be one, but he steps over the line in a way that is pushing the state forward, pushing us opportunities forward. It's breaking down those barriers is really what makes our community work, and it's with everyone else's contribution. So that's, like I said, leading from behind. So when you can be in the geospatial private sector space and show that you can also impact government and change government, that's leadership. We can't forget in government to ask for help from our private sector partners. And Steve's a great example of what we can achieve if we do that. The statewide data harvest that we talk about a lot would not be anywhere near its current state if it were not for those types of collaborations. And the understanding that data can be open doesn't just have to stay within government, right? It can go beyond. It led to the spirit of collaboration, which I think that Steve really embodies. On a personal note, I've had the pleasure of working with Steve since 2010, and our discussions got more and more interesting as our time together went on. So in past roles, taking this off now, I really can't stand it. In past roles, Steve and I would talk about how to fix the public safety data stuff, and how do we approach it? What's the right approach? How do we get data to Next Gen 911 data standards? Because we know that the 911 centers are going to need it, right? So we got in the weeds on some data stuff, and we got in the weeds with understanding what happens in the 911 center. And he already knew that, I didn't, and I was learning. And I had no idea, Steve, that 13 years later we'd still be doing the same thing. Still be trying to get that information there. Most recently in committees and also in just one-on-one conversations, Steve's provided very sage counsel on how the Geographic Information Office and other state agencies, how we work with local government, and what actions we take and what that impact might be. So I'd like to say that some of the reasons why we haven't failed hard is because Steve was seeing it first and was able to say, don't do that. And think twice before you go down this path. Even most recently, when we were trying to architect how do we do a large-scale statewide data cleanup, called Steve and said, how do we do this? Like, where do the counties that use WTH technology tools, what do they need to get up that level? And his experience and, like I said, unbiased approach to how to do that really helped us shape that and gave us the confidence to say, no, I think we can make this happen. So with that, I'll close and say, Steve Ledman, it's been a pleasure to work with you. I look forward to doing it for many years to come. This entire room, this entire organization is better because of your input and your efforts. Thank you.
Which mic works there. I was just going to mention, when I first got out of school, I had an interest in community development. And GIS was, I didn't even know about GIS. It was in its infancy. But my first job was with a newly formed council of governments that represented Marion County and 7 surrounding counties. And in that job, one of my first responsibilities was to put together a regional map. And up to that point, they had not had a map that was geo-referenced so that all the counties fit together. And we were using cutting-edge technology at the time, which basically meant taking out a pair of scissors and cutting a topo map so you could cut counties out and then paste them together, made plastic mylar base layer of that region, and then hired a draftsman who, with an ink pen, drew layers on plastic layers on top of that base map. And you say, man, that is a crude map. You know, what impact might that have? It just happened that that was during the time when development was starting to go outside of Indianapolis. And Indianapolis, the mayor was concerned about the downtown of Indianapolis, that it was going to be called the donut, and the hole in the donut. He was very concerned about that. And one of our board members was an advisor to the mayor. And those crude regional maps helped to influence policymakers on redeveloping the downtown of Indianapolis, and then also in outer counties, made them aware that things were coming. They were part of a unified area. There was another project. We were doing most of the water quality planning, and we got an early EPA grant that involved computerized GIS mapping. This was in the early 80s. And the technician on that grant was Chuck Kiphart, who 15 years later would be the director of world sales for Esri. And the other person that was the director of that council of governments was Rex Jones, that 15 years later would be starting a GIS company to basically go where Esri had not gone. And I will say that in 1999, I basically met back up with Rex, and he was, at that point, a civil engineering firm that decided that he had GIS issues, doing bridge inspections, and needed GIS to help him. Came across a Rose Coleman grad that had software, met some ASI alumni. These were Indianapolis folks that had GIS training. It happened in 1998, 1999, 1 meter photography became available. So a lot of things came together at that moment. I met up with Rex at that point, and basically, even in that meeting, basically just said, hire me. Because what I saw was that he was taking the idea of service that he had first put together with the Council of Governments and married it with GIS. And the thing that I realized was that if I want to do community development, the GIS was probably one of the best tools that you could possibly have to do that, because it cuts across lines of politics and interests and allows you to have a conversation with almost anyone. And so I didn't realize at the beginning of the process, but now 20 years later as I look back, with that early interest in community development, that what a project and how many people were involved in it. And I'm basically a quiet person, and I've never had, with GIS, I could talk with anyone because you had a common language to work and solve community problems. So it has been a joy, and I appreciate all the work that everyone has done. Thank you.
We have one more David Ford award to present, and then something not on the agenda. Lane has agreed to do some fun trivia. So stick around in the room for a little bit. We're going to have some trivia with some game prizes, right, Lane? That's what he says.
We're talking cash.
Cash. Wow. Okay, Megan, you're up.
All right, I'm back. So I have the opportunity to do this twice. Because I could not think in the David C. Ford space with that lens of another person who would be more appropriate to receive the David C. Ford Award than Charlene Aiken. Many of you know Charlene, and she's in the club of the people who retire and then don't retire, right? So when I met Charlene first, she was working for Citizens and she was teaching me about addressing at an Indian GIS meeting. And again, little did I know, we'd still be talking about addressing. 15 years later. All right. A little bit about Charlene Aiken. Charlene currently serves as president and founder of TechHow. She is a longtime member of IGIC and served on the board as a board member between 2006 and 2014, and as president in 2012. She gives her time and talent to a dazzling array of GIS initiatives. Charlene worked in the utility industry for nearly 40 years, beginning her career at the Indianapolis Department of Transportation, before moving to the technology field within Indianapolis Water Company and its successors, Veolia Water and Citizens Energy. She combines a unique set of skills and vision that helped both the utility field and the state and local governments advance their use of GIS. As a member of the Images Consortium, Charlene was able to advance its goals of a shared spatial information system throughout Marion County. That's no small task. She's an avid golfer. She's really avid golfer. You need to find Charlene. She either is headed to, is currently at, or on her way home from golfing. It's not really true. She also serves as the marketing director for the Central Indiana LPGA. She's a wife, a mother, and a grandmother. Charlene is one of those people that's also never really in the spotlight, but she's always contributing. She's been an advocate and enabler of GIS technology for those professionals who put it to use across all of the sectors. Whether through her work in the supportive utilities of her career, or through her constant advocacy for good data and her work with IBRC, Charlene has created a path for geospatial professionals. While on that path, she shepherds the GIS community to collaborate and share information for large-scale projects with huge success. Her work and impact spans from local to state to national efforts. Just a few of the projects that Charlene has supported have set Indiana up as a national leader in GIS. And some of those projects that you've heard of this week, and if you haven't heard, we will tomorrow. U.S. Census, Charlene's efforts on LUCA, BAS, and BCAR programs, nothing short of heroic. the Indiana Data Harvest, Indiana Framework Data Project Pilot, Framework Data Standards Initiative, the National Address Database, and several APCO and NINA work groups and advisory groups. Many of these programs and initiatives she's also helped to lead from behind. There's a theme here. And have been led so well with her support. She's a mentor and longtime champion for women in GIS also. Using collaboration and her beautiful humor and humility to make everyone feel welcome in her. It's truly been an honor and a privilege to get to work with Charlene over these last several years. And watching the input and how Indiana has been able to move forward with her ability to get into a data set and make it make sense. And then turn around and make other people understand it when there's no way, I spend hours talking to Charlene and I still can't process all of the things that she tells us about the data standards, about the processes, and then she goes, it's fine, it just works. It works. But she never says no. She never says, no, we're not going to do that. She says, well, let's try. Let's give it a shot. Service, a servant heart, and constant devotion to helping to push everything, teach everyone, never leaving anybody behind, and paving the way, right? When you walk up to a table and there's a chair, Charlene pulls it out for you. So it doesn't matter if you're where you are in your career, she's welcoming to you. And that has, I think, moved many of us in this room. Charlene, it's been a pleasure working with you. I feel very blessed, and thank you for your service.
Just a couple things to say. Megan, thank you very much for your kind words. Really, really, I am so thrilled, I'm extremely honored to be nominated for this award. I love working with this group. As you know, I'm a girl who hates to waste her time. A girl who loves to be fruitful and efficient. And I feel like civic organizations throughout the state of Indiana operate more fruitful and more efficiently with the growth and advancements of GIS that have occurred over, if you can't believe it, 4 decades of my career. I couldn't be happier and more thankful to be part of this growth. I remember the process and the contributions. I'm trying to remember, there's several of us in the room that went to the legislature and spoke before them during the Senator Ford's activities of trying to get the legislation going. And that was an incredible opportunity. And it was definitely needed because we really felt like our efforts needed to be validated, and that legislation did that. The diverse organizations and their participation across the state provide the essential structure of IGIC that promotes GIS in Indiana. That initial idea of having 30 to 35 different individuals on the IGIC board is what makes this work. It's important that every organization's voice is heard and affects the recommendations of the council. Excuse me. The early tenets of the IGIC that we're still promoting, and we feel like grows the use of GIS data, is create it once, use it many times. Pay once, use it many times. Make data useful for many activities. And share data to those that need it. We're still doing that, and we're still talking about it. And we're going to be doing it in the future. To be nominated along with Steve and Mike this year has been an honor, and to be joined with the list of previous winners is a special compliment. I really appreciate it. As our data sharing and quality becomes more important for public safety, I hope to continue contributing towards IGIC goals through my activities on the Streets and Address Work Group and the Next Gen 911 work groups. Again, I'm thankful and honored to be nominated for this award. Thank you very much.
Wait, you're missing one. You're missing one in the photo. Congratulations. Sorry, I'm a little bit late on that slide. So again, we had 3 great award winners. They will be sticking around. Please congratulate them during the reception that's going to start here in just a little bit. 14 minutes according to my watch, maybe 12 if I shorten this speech. The awards committee meets kind of in a dark room. We really don't do a whole lot most of the year until about 3 months before the conference. Most of you probably got an email from Jess saying submit nominations. And then we get together, we review nominations, and this year it was determined that our awards are very, very nice. Tonight's 4 awards, tomorrow at lunch, hopefully you will join us. We have 6 more to give out. Joanne's counting. We'll get back after she gets all of her fingers and toes counted. But these are the city, county, state, educational, not-for-profit awards. And again, they'll be at lunch tomorrow. And just a little bit of, if you could help us out, lunch will be seated, served in here. So if you can come upstairs sooner, get seated, we'll get to our awards a lot quicker that way. But the committee also this year decided that, we've got these great categories, but maybe that's not quite enough. So they've added a couple of new ones, and the thought process was to add some potential new ones, and it was talked about for several weeks, so we went back and forth, and so we decided to recognize somebody else tonight. In a minute, you'll know why these are blank. We're calling it a service award. And this year, the individual it goes to has put a lot of time into IGIC behind the scenes. The goal here was to give an award to somebody who's done a lot, whether it be for IGIC overall or the conference. This particular individual, it made it tough to give this award out. He's sitting all the way to my extreme left. He puts together all these PowerPoints. He runs the microphone, which I'm surprised hasn't been turned off yet. But when you But when you get ready to do one of these presentations, he demands to have it days in advance.
Yeah.
Well, how do you give him the surprise award when you know he's going to go through every slide in that presentation? So, a little bit about Mr. Lane Young. Again, we wanted to recognize individual organizations providing exemplary service support to the Indiana GIS Committee, and Wayne has done that for years with our conference committee. A lot of time on other areas but conference committee, so he's got it easy over there. This year they provided us with a soundboard and a little bit of technology, but for years, Lane filled his car and came to the conference. Brought laptops that you saw in the sessions rooms. He made sure that each laptop was paired to the IGIC projector, thank you, and made sure all that was worked. Made sure all those PowerPoints were loaded in advance, tirelessly behind the scenes, got up early every morning, made sure all the microphones were on in every room, made sure every worked. I'm not just talking about this, I'm talking about all the session rooms downstairs. He made sure that all that was connected and worked. For those of you who don't know a little bit about Lane, he worked for the city of Indianapolis 35 plus years. He retired a few years ago. And towards the end of his career, he came and volunteered on his own, took vacation time from his job to help out with the conference and paid his own way. And he's one of those that retires and comes back. I don't understand the concept. But again, he's here on his own, and he's retired and paying his own way. But Lane, we appreciate all your service. It's time that you make your way up here, though, because we do have an award for you. Tried to foil this all afternoon. He knew, I think, but he kept saying, well, for this, trivia, I need microphones. Well, I stole the microphones hours ago. He had to come on the stage. Oh. Always working. For those of you who may have come in late, Board 82 is your gamification code. Do you have any words you want to say, or are you ready to go to trivia?
We're going to trivia a little bit.
Okay.
I'm one of those behind the scenes people, and they never give me the mic because you never know what's going to happen. And I just love this group because it's filled with people who want to get it done for the public and for other people. I just love that a lot, and I can do a ton for that. I have zero desire to go out and make thousands of dollars, but I do want to enable people to make a difference for others. And that's what you guys do. And that's